Is the so-called Big Six era officially over? All right, let's address the big question that's been looming over the Premier League like a VAR check that takes way too long. I mean, just look at the league table right now. Manchester United, mid-table misery. Tottenham, inconsistent at best. Meanwhile, teams like Aston Villa and Newcastle are waltzing into the Champions League conversation like they've been VIP members all along. But before we start writing the obituary for the Big Six, let's break this down properly. Because, spoiler alert, it's not that simple. What even is the Big Six? And how did we get here? Let me give you a quick history lesson. Don't worry, it's fun. The term Big Six sounds pretty official, right? Like some secret football Illuminati pulling the strings behind the scenes. But in reality, it's just a label, a social construct that changes over time. Think of it like fashion trends. One minute, bootcut jeans are in, and the next, you're being roasted for wearing them. So how did this whole Big Six thing start? Well, grab your time machine because we're going back a bit. In the Big Two era, the Premier League was basically Arsène Wenger versus Sir Alex Ferguson, a rivalry so intense it made El Clasico look friendly. Arsenal and Manchester United owned English football, winning every league title from 1996 to 2004. Chelsea and Liverpool, just trying to crash the party. Then, in the Big Four era, Chelsea kicked the door down when Roman Abramovich rolled up with unlimited oil money in 2003. Liverpool, meanwhile, put their name back in the mix with some legendary Champions League nights. Suddenly, it wasn't just Arsenal and United, Chelsea and Liverpool were here to stay. Enter the Big Six. This is where things get interesting. Manchester City won their first Premier League title in 2012 and decided they weren't going anywhere. At the same time, Tottenham went from that club with Gareth Bale to Champions League regulars. Sky Sports saw the trend and boom, the Big Six was born. Now, quick question for you. If we made a Big Six today, who's in and who's out? City and Liverpool? Probably safe. Arsenal? Still relevant. United and Spurs? Oof. Chelsea? Depends on what mood they're in. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So, what actually makes a Big Six club? If you think it's all about trophies, then sorry Spurs, you've been demoted. If it's about historic dominance, Man City wouldn't have even been in the conversation 15 years ago. No, the reality is this. The Big Six is no longer just about footballing success. It's about money. These clubs make ridiculous amounts of cash. TV deals, sponsorships, shirt sales, you name it. Even when they suck on the pitch, they still rake in revenue. In terms of league performance, they're usually at the top end of the table, or at least they were, before Aston Villa, Newcastle, and even Brighton decided they were tired of being left out. These clubs have massive fan bases worldwide. Even if United finishes 10th, there will still be 50,000 people in Singapore debating their transfer strategy. So, with all of this in mind, this makes the Big Six as much about financial performance as it is about league performance. Once upon a time, okay, like a decade ago, the Big Six ran the Premier League like a mafia. From 2010 to 2014, they occupied 6 of the top 6 spots, a ridiculous 78 out of 90 times. And aside from Leicester's 2015 to 16 title win, which still feels like a fever dream, the dominance of these 6 clubs went completely unchallenged well into the early 2020s. But every empire falls, right? The Romans, the Mongols, Manchester United's midfield in the post-Ferguson era. So, what happened to the Big Six? For that, we need to go back to the peak of Big Six domination in the 2010s. Let's rewind to 2016 to 17. After Leicester's Hollywood script season, the Big Six had a collective identity crisis and responded the only way they knew how, on all 6 top spots, leaving Everton stranded in 7th like a kid who wasn't invited to the cool table. 4 years after, non-Big Six clubs couldn't even get close. City hit 100 points in 2018, Liverpool and Spurs battled in a Champions League final, and Arsenal fans still thought Unai Emery was a good idea. Life was predictable. Even when Leicester flirted with a top 4 finish in 2019-20, the established giants pulled the old "not on my watch" routine. Leicester crumbled, finishing 5th, twice. But, as a certain bald Dutchman once said, eras come to an end. Fast forward to today, the Big Six can't even keep their own seats at the table. In the last 5 seasons, only once have they actually finished as the top 6. Newcastle stormed into the Champions League in 2022-23. Aston Villa followed in 2023-24, leaving Spurs out in the cold. Nottingham Forest could be next. Bournemouth, anyone? The competition is fiercer than ever, and we have Pep Guardiola and his bald head to thank. His passing-heavy tactics at City changed the game, inspiring teams like Brighton and Brentford to develop their own unique styles. Thus, with its rise in unexpected upsets brought about by the diverse ball-playing styles and the goal-scoring opportunities they create, the Premier League has become more competitive and unpredictable than ever before. Let's talk numbers, shall we? The Big Six, Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Tottenham Hotspur, aren't just clubs, they're financial juggernauts. In the 2023-24 season, these clubs reported average revenues of around €700 million each. Even when things go south on the pitch, their bank accounts remain robust. Take Arsenal, for instance. Despite a 6-year hiatus from the Champions League between 2017 and 2023, they still raked in €366 million in 2021. This financial resilience kept them over €110 million ahead of Leicester City, their closest challenger during that period. Now, let's shift our gaze to the other 14 clubs, the Davids to the Goliaths of the Premier League. While their average revenues have doubled over the past decade, they still lag behind, earning just 47.8% of what the Big Six pull in. In cold, hard cash, that's an average revenue of €340 million per club, leaving a yawning gap of over €360 million. A decade ago, this gap was a mere €250 million. So, while they're running faster, the finish line keeps moving. Television revenue was supposed to be the Robin Hood of football finances, redistributing wealth to create a more level playing field. And yes, the influx of TV money has fattened the coffers of mid-table clubs. But here's the kicker. It's also made the rich richer, and we're talking billions. Billions with a B. The introduction of profit and sustainability rules aim to curb reckless spending and promote financial health across all clubs. While these regulations have reined in some excesses, the Big Six have the commercial muscle to adapt without breaking a sweat. Their global fan bases, lucrative sponsorships, and expansive merchandising operations provide buffers that smaller clubs can only dream of. Even giants can trip over their own feet. Manchester United's recent woes, reckless spending, managerial merry-go-rounds, and the prolonged saga of Erik ten Hag's tenure have shown that deep pockets can't always buy success. Similarly, Tottenham Hotspur and their recent questionable decisions. But here's the thing. Their financial clout allows them to absorb these setbacks and remain contenders for European spots. Television money and smart management have given the underdogs a fighting chance, but the entrenched financial power of the elite ensures they stay ahead. Until the revenue streams become more equitable or a mid-table club discovers a goldmine, the Big Six will continue to rule the roost, both on and off the pitch. So, as fans, we can relish the occasional giant-killing act and dream of a more balanced future. But for now, the financial hierarchy of the Premier League remains as unyielding as ever. Guess what? No club outside the Big Six has managed that in 20-plus years. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think the Big Six dominance is still an existing reality or a thing of the past? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and as always, stay tuned with Footy, and see you at the next one.